Yeah, thank you.
Senator, I'm trying to add, you're asking me today to conduct complex legal analysis with legal conclusions. And so I know it's important, and so I'm trying to do my best. I'm at the same time trying to make sure that I don't have some statement I made that I parsed the language.
I understand, right. But to the extent that there is not an identifiable constraint on Article 2 power, then we are all out of the business of declaring war.
If I could, I'll use another 30 seconds of my time. I think that even on this committee, there's wide disagreement over that. I know Senator Shaheen and myself, I saw our public statements over the last few days, both agree that the president has the ability to make surgical strikes. President Obama carried on for months activities against Libya that I disagreed with on a policy basis, but he had that authority to do so. At least he claimed he did. So look, I think this is a subject of debate, and I think it's prudent of our witness to not try to analyze the very details of that on our own committee. We would debate that on both sides of the aisle at length. But I thank you for having this conversation. I look forward to the follow-up. Senator Barrasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Pompeo, congratulations on your nomination. Thank you for your service to the nation. Thanks for coming by and visiting with me, taking the time to discuss the critical issues of national security. And I concur completely with you in the presidential authority to use military force in Syria. I wanted to stay with Syria for a few moments, if I could, because what we've seen, Assad has continued to use chemical weapons, killing thousands, and most recently it sounds like another attack a few days ago. Reports emerged from the regime to killing men, women, children outside of Damascus, another terrible chemical weapon.
We have been watching part of the confirmation hearing, because it's ongoing at this point, of CIA Director Mike Pompeo and a 21-person committee on the Hill in the Senate, talking with him about what they want to know about his past, his future, his perspectives on things as he is being considered for Secretary of State. And you've got Senator Barrasso talking right now. One of those senators on the Hill today is standing by to talk with us. Republican Senator Tom Cotton sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee and is a big backer of Pompeo's nomination. So we just want to take a break and step away from some of what's going on in testimony and get some of your opinion about this. Senator, this has been riveting in just the last few minutes. Very rapid topic changes, so on and so forth, but specifically when it comes to Syria and what we'll do there. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on first to discuss Director Pompeo's nomination to be our Secretary of State. I do strongly support him. I believe he'll be confirmed in the next couple of weeks, and I think he'll be a great Secretary of State, not only for the President, but for our country. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee is addressing some of the weightiest issues we face as a nation, and we can face things like military action against Syria or threats that nations like Russia or China pose to us. I can personally say that I know Mike Pompeo understands those threats and the need to have sound, effective diplomacy backed up by the credible threat of military force, because I served with him in the House of Representatives. I've traveled the world with him and sat across the table with heads of state, and I've worked very closely with him as the director of the CIA while I've been on the Senate Intelligence Committee. I think he's handled himself very well today. He's been respectful towards members of the committee. He's addressed their questions as best he can, given the constraints of not being able to see the future and see all of the challenges that we might face during his tenure as Secretary of State.
You know, Senator Cotton, what was interesting too, he was asked several times about the Russia investigation and ongoing, and whether or not he'd met with the special counsel Robert Mueller. And time again, as the CIA director, he cannot comment, he said, at this point. What did you make of it?
Well, I think a lot of Democrats on the committee, just like Democrats in Congress, are obsessed with this matter. I don't know many Arkansans that are obsessed with it. They worry not only about their own jobs, but about America being safe in the world. That's what Mike Pompeo has dedicated himself to, not just as a CIA director, but over a lifetime, to include career or service as an Army officer. I can tell you, as a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Under Director Pompeo, the CIA has been extraordinarily forthcoming to provide us all of the documents and access to potential witnesses we might need. I can also tell you that the CIA has a relatively limited role in our review. This is much more a matter for the FBI, which is our main counterintelligence agency. But to the extent that our review on the Intelligence Committee has depended on the CIA, Director Pompeo has provided us access to the kinds of documents and even raw intelligence that we rarely see in Congress. And I think that reflects well on him, and also shows that once he's at the Department of State, he will also work with Congress in that cooperative fashion.
Senator Cotton, are there any bumps that you see so far on the road to confirmation? There have been so many topics that have come up and some interesting points and back and forth, but is there anything that you see on the horizon and you say, oh, that's going to be a problem?
No, not at all. I think Director Pompeo has handled himself very well. He's answered questions to the very best of his ability and within the constraints of having a public hearing where you can't discuss classified information.
Sure.
He earned 15 Democratic votes to be director of the CIA just last year. I see no reason why all 15 of those Democrats wouldn't want to vote for him in this position. And for that matter, for the other Democrats who opposed him last year, he now has 16 months of track record running an executive branch agency. And by all accounts, he's done that exceptionally well. He's helped restore high morale to the CIA. Frankly, the State Department could use that right now, too.
You know, Senator Corker brought up something, and we've heard it a couple of times today, and it has to do, I want to go back to Syria, because the president is promising that he'll have an answer for the nation in the short little while. We're waiting, we're perched to hear what that's going to be, what it will look like that we will do to Syria in regard to the suspected use of chemical weapons on citizens. Senator Corker says the president has the authority to make surgical strikes. We saw President Obama do this in Libya, even though Corker says, I didn't agree with the politics of why he did it, but he said he had the right to do it. What is the takeaway for the American people with this discussion today with Pompeo on that?
Well, first, I believe, as Director Pompeo said, the president always has the inherent authority under our Constitution to employ military force to protect the United States interests. That's been the case going back to the beginning of our republic, you know, when we were fighting the Barbary pirates off the coast of Libya and the Mediterranean. Congress has a co-equal power, of course. We could defund those operations, and that's happened over the course of our history as well. It almost happened in the Iraq War just in the last decade. That's the simple and equal power that Congress has. But there's no doubt that any president has the constitutional power to employ force to protect U.S. interests.
As they are continuing with the hearing today with Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State, it was so great to get you to talk with us there from the Hill. Senator Cotton, thank you very much for your perspective and filling in some of the color that's going on, because I would imagine every senator is probably discussing this at this point. Thank you.